Hi, and welcome back to Short Videos on Archaeology. In this video, we're going to discuss research design, and I'm going to walk you through a bit of the research design process with a case study looking at a castle. Research design is an important part of any scientific endeavor. It is where you define your study, developing a series of questions which you will answer through appropriate methods. So for this video, we're going to use the castle atop Monte Bonifato in western Sicily as our case study. So here you can see it in this picture. Up on top of the mountain, here's the keep next to a big radio tower. And here we have a close-up of the castle. Again, this is just the keep, as the entire area has been heavily modified with modern infrastructure. Naturally, we can't just study the castle in general. That's been done before. Instead, we're going to have to come up with a research agenda. For this video, I've decided that the research agenda is going to be understanding how the castle relates to its surroundings. This is still rather a broad topic, and we need to narrow it down a little bit more with a set of specific questions. To develop these questions, we're going to need to do a little bit of research first. Google Earth provides a good preliminary step. So if our research question is to understand how the castle relates to its surroundings, then the first step we're going to have to take is actually looking at what's around the castle. So here we have the castle up on top of Monte Bonifato. Here's the keep you just saw in a previous image. And here is a bunch of the modern infrastructure. You can see it's really built into different parts of the castle. But zooming out, you can see what's around it. So Monte Bonifato is near the modern city of Alcamo. Zooming out some more, you can see it's not too far from the coast. There are some other towns nearby, and if you keep zooming out, you can see with modern road networks, it's pretty well connected. The question would be if it was that well connected in the past. Following a look at the satellite imagery, we're going to need to do a little bit of book research as well to see what other people have said about the castle. In this book, they make a very important point to note that the castle atop Monte Bonifato is very connected to other castles in the area visually. That is the testable hypothesis. So for our research questions, I'm going to say that 1. How visually connected are other castles to the castle atop Monte Bonifato? And 2. How easy is it to get from one castle within the viewshed of Monte Bonifato to another? These questions can each be set up as formal hypotheses, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to leave them as they are in this demo. Likewise, both of these questions can be answered through a two-step process. First, by modeling them on a computer to see if we get the answers we think we're going to get before even going to Sicily. And second, by going to Sicily and actually testing our models. So here we have a hillshade model constructed in ArcMap based off a 10-meter DEM showing western Sicily. The green star here is Monte Bonifato, or more precisely, the castle atop Monte Bonifato. All the yellow dots here are the different castles in the area. To model the potential line of sight communication between Monte Bonifato and other castles, I'm going to use a viewshed. So to begin with, I'm going to open the attribute table here. So here's the attribute table. Now this is going to be a fairly simple and straightforward model because it's just a demo, but here we have offset A, which is me telling the computer that the observer point that I want it to look at is 25 meters off the DEM. I'm guessing that the keep is about 25 meters tall, so I want to see what 25 meters in the air gets me for a viewshed. Next, because we don't see an infinite amount of space around us, there's a limit to what our eyes can perceive. I'm going to put a radius in for a max distance. So with that, we're ready to run our viewshed. So I'm going to go here to search, and I'm going to go to viewshed spatial analyst. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to input my raster data, so that's the DEM I want it to use. I'm then going to pick my observer point. I'm going to then pick my output. I'm then going to use the Earth curvature for this analysis and hit OK. And here we have in green what is visible and in pink what is not. So I'm just going to hide the pink, say no color, and here we have what is visible from atop Monte Bonifato. So as you can see here, you've got basically the whole Gulf of Castellamare as being under the surveillance of Monte Bonifato. You have the castle at Alcamo, barely in the viewshed. You have the castle of Inici right here. That can be seen. You have Calatubo as in the viewshed. You can pick out what castles are in the viewshed, which would give you what castles you can have line of sight communication with. Turning to our second research question, we're going to want to model how travel might occur between 2 points. For this, you would probably run a least cost path analysis between the castle atop Monte Bonifato and each of the castles in the surrounding area. These would give you the easiest paths to take between castles, from which you could extrapolate how long it would take for someone to make the journey between these structures. So to build a least cost path, I'm going to open the model builder here. In the model builder, I'm going to need to use slope, click on that, set the input to my DEM, the output I'm cool with, and then just OK. So then we want to reclassify what we just ran. Classify spatial analyst, dump that there. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to input this slope data. So here I'm going to go to classify. So instead of natural breaks, I'm going to do quantiles and 10. And then this gives me basically a scale for difficulty for how hard the landscape is to go across. So I'm going to hit OK. I am going to add cost distance. I'm going to plug the output of our reclassified stuff into cost distance. I'm going to click on this to see what else I need to do. Source is going to be my destination, Erice. Looks good. I'm going to hit OK. Then I'm going to add cost path. Then I'm going to link this to my cost path as the cost distance. Link the backlink. Go into here. Do my input as first selection. Good. Hit OK. And then I'm going to run everything. Okay, and when everything runs, you get a cost path output that's kind of hard to see. Zoom in on it, and basically the easiest route to get from Monte Bonifato to Erice is just to go by coast. So the output for this, though, is roster data, which doesn't tell you a whole lot necessarily. What I like to do here is convert the roster data to vector data to get a polyline. So here I'm going to input and then let it go. So once the process runs, you get this line covering up your path for how best to get from Monte Bonifato to Erice. And if you open up the attribute table, you get that it would be 55 kilometers. So 55 kilometers is a lot, so you can see here that while communication based on the viewshed is likely an important factor in communication between Monte Bonifato and Erice, travel between it would probably take a couple days. Both of these analyses just produce models, however. They're computer simulations designed to guide our interpretations of the past. To really see if they're accurate, however, we're going to need to go to Sicily to actually validate them. Come on, Snoop. So if we were to go to Sicily, we could then test to see what castles we can actually see from atop Monte Bonifato. So here we have the castle of Alcamo, definitely clearly visible from atop Monte Bonifato. We have Calatubo, also visible. And we have Castellamare. All three were clearly within the viewshed for the model. I don't have a picture of me looking out at Segesta from Monte Bonifato, but I have a photo of the other way around. And clearly the two have a line of sight between each other. If you wanted to go above and beyond, you could start looking at castles that were just outside our viewshed. So here I am standing at the base of the castle in Salemi, looking out towards Monte Bonifacio, and you can't really see it in this picture, but if you're actually there, you can just barely make out the radio tower standing atop the mountain. If I were to go up to the top of the keep of the Salemi castle, which is 30 meters up, I'd probably be able to see the castle pretty clearly. This, of course, indicates one of the shortcomings of our model, in that we weren't modeling to see the elevated parts of the castles we were looking for. Likewise, the castle at Mocarda wasn't anywhere near any of the patches of land our viewshed indicated was visible. However, from this picture you could see that standing by the castle, you can just barely make out the castle atop Monte Bonifacio. This would be even easier to do if it was a clear day, showing that modeling needs to be tested. To test whether your least cost paths are accurate, you may choose to walk or, ride a horse or camel from castle to castle to see how long it would actually take to get from Monte Bonifacio to one of the outlying castles. And there you have it, research design through the completion of a project. This, of course, has been a simplified introduction video. There's actually a little bit more to it than this, but for an introduction to the topic of research design, this is pretty much all you need to know.